Good morning, Transforming Community. Today, I'm going to talk about a very, very simple concept that really helps us as coaches to really understand development, one of the core functions and the core responsibilities of our job. I don't want to take too long, so let's dive straight into it. So, let's consider this is the generic player that we have, and what we see here is what their performance might look like. And on this left end is their worst performances, on the right side is their best performances. Typically, they're giving us slightly above average or slightly below average performances, on and on day to day, we see a good spread in the variability within their performance. Now, this is okay, but we obviously aim to change that, and there's two main changes that happen. So the first or the most obvious change is people get better at doing good things. So we call this improvement by addition. So as you can see in the graph here, the player has gotten better over time in practice, and the right side, his best performances have stretched. There's some great benefits, and the way we know this is happening is, maybe they're contributing more, they're having more impact on the map. We can quantify this as well, maybe looking at their kills, the assists, and other relevant metrics related to their roles and their positions. um, the next best benefit is they're raising their ceiling. Their peak performance is getting even better, allowing them to have more stand-up performances, have those 1v9, have those man of the match MVP days. However, there's some challenges that happen when we only focus on sharpening our strengths and raising that ceiling. Some of those considerations and those challenges might be it might be harder to achieve those developmental growths because we're asking our players to be better than what they are. And if it's already hard to for them to achieve peak performance, you might not be able to make or cover as much ground in that dimension. And by only focusing on our strengths, we still create this large variation in performance. Therefore, the player isn't as consistent. So the other side of the coin is we move away from our weaknesses. We drop some of those bad habits, right? We see this here. This is kind of the developmental gain, and those have some great benefits for us as coaches and even for the player. Some of those benefits are they're making less mistakes. They're not, those unforced errors aren't as prominent, not as frequent. Um, and they're finding more consistency in their performance. As you can see here, the performance variability has squeezed in. Therefore, they're on average performing closer to their ability rather than having high variance either in training or competition. Now, again, some considerations to always have in mind, because typically this sort of mentality is not as attractive. When you go to players and say, I'm going to make you less worse, they're like, no, but I want to be, even better than I am now. But both of them still give you the same effect of your average performance is improving. And the larger and the bigger kind of caveat here when trying to consider improvement by subtraction is it's hard to identify where to focus. There's a lot of red herrings, and there's a lot of things we need to be very mindful of as coaches and even as athletes when we're trying to drop some of these bad habits, because we don't really know which one is going to give us the most value for our time. So just to cap it off, coaches, there are some questions I really want you to consider is how do you communicate these changes with your athletes? How do you plan practice to incorporate both forms of development? And what are some other ways that someone or your athletes or your teams might develop? To have a more engaging conversation with us, follow us on our socials and join our Discord. All the links will be in the description down below. And thank you for your time today.